Well, good evening and welcome. This is the Black Doula Consortium's fifth webinar. We appreciate that you could join us again and talk about the realities and health outcomes of Black mamas and babies and entire Black communities in California. And we're sorry about the delay. We had a bit of a snafu, a little challenges and changes in the scheduled programming, but we still will proceed. And this time we're doing it as a webinar and not a live discussion, but our interaction will be all the way live. Anyway, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Audra Jones. I am a Black Doula Consortium partner. I am today's host and facilitator. I am also a public health professional, maternal and infant health advocate, a mother, daughter, sister, mentor, and friend that is consistently found doing work within my community to advocate for equity in healthcare and services for many underserved people locally, statewide, and even nationally. It has been my privilege and honor to lead these webinars. For those of you who have not seen our previous webinars, we want to give you a very brief introduction of who we are and what we're trying to do within the Black Doula Consortium. This is just a short recap. We encourage you to visit the website www.blackwpc.org to learn more about our consortium and check out the previous webinars. In June, with the support of the Center at Sierra Health Foundation, Black Wellness and Prosperity Center, and the consortium partners, the Center, Blue Shield of California, Black Child Legacy Campaign, along with myself and some other doula partners, Frontline Doulas and Diversity Uplift Inc., and Her Health First, we launched a new initiative entitled the Black Doula Consortium. The Black Doula Consortium focuses on coalition building amongst maternal health advocates and amplifying their voices, as well as increasing and widening awareness and understanding of the various factors, solutions, practices, and public health decisions that may impact Black maternal and infant health outcomes. We have planned 7 webinars and events between June and December of 2021. This is our 5th event. Our ultimate goal is to promote system solutions for improving health outcomes of Black mamas and babies. Working alongside with our partners on these objectives, we prioritize issues that greatly shape our community's lives. We invite prominent BIPOC and Black maternal health experts and infant health experts to help us with these hard conversations. I want to emphasize that we are really interested in engaging with you, our audiences, on these topics. So we learn more about your realities, your experience, and understand your questions and concerns. For every event, we have a community engagement element. Those community engagement surveys are still open, and we would be honored if you would participate by completing them so that we could hear your voices. One of them aims to collect your birth and pregnancy experiences. Another specifically asks you about your views, feelings, hopes regarding Senate Bill 65, which is the California Omnibus Act, and Senate Bill 464, the Pregnancy and Dignity in Childbirth Act. And also ways in which you believe those particular bills would help you as a Black woman or birthing person. The fourth one invites you to tell us how you navigate your mental health. So this is open to our entire community as well. If you have some time, please follow the links in the description and tell us about your feelings and experiences. In the past 4 sessions, let me get it right. In the past 4 sessions, from June until now, your screening, we have been covering topics that are harder and harder to discuss. October marks the month of infant loss and pregnancy loss, as well for Black families in California disproportionately experiencing this issue. Although many of these deaths are preventable, losing a baby remains a reality for many families. With the help of the conversation partners, our partner here today, we will be focusing on healing and providing culturally acceptable ways of helping Black families talk about infant and pregnancy loss. After this background information, we are going to be turning back to our today's topic, which is loss and grief, losing your baby. So those of you who follow us, you already know that we are intentional about our topics that we bring up during these webinars. In the last couple of months, we have been bringing here difficult topics, a bit more difficult each time. And because we fully respect the realities of Black families, we thought these are crucial topics for us to address and discuss. In the last two events, we talked about postpartum depression and about the importance of screening, which are often instrumental to not only keep babies alive, but happy, safe, and healthy. Today, we actually have to turn and really look at and talk about what has been a sad and traumatic reality for many Black families in California, across the state, and our nation. Today's topic is losing a baby and dealing with the pain and grief, or even pregnancy loss. We want to provide support today to those who lose a baby during miscarriage, stillbirth, even termination, or those who have lost their baby at or after birth. For this topic, we have invited a colleague who came to me and my team in Los Angeles County around our African American infant and maternal mortality initiative through our community action team, who has had that experience of losing a beautiful baby girl. And so just like previously, it would mean a lot to us if you could talk about you, if you've had this experience, that you can tap in and talk to us about that and share. This will help us understand, and how we as doulas, professional health, maternal and infant health advocates, can also help, and also how we can guide systems for change to help and ensure that you also have help in navigating the systems and finding the actual support that you and your family would need and benefit from. You'll find the link in the description to help, and it is titled Dealing with Grief and Loss, Losing Your Baby. So who we've invited today, we did have someone else planned, but today we had to make a few switches due to scheduling West Coast and East Coast time, just being actually honest with you, and it happens sometimes. But what we are doing today is talking with Miss Chanel Gibbs. Chanel is a television writer and producer. In the past, she suffered from she is a severe preeclampsia survivor and mother to an infant angel, Isabel. Along with being on a quest to live a fulfilling creative life, she has become a maternal and infant health advocate in Los Angeles. So welcome, Chanel. I'm so glad you are here with us on today, or with me on today, and that you accepted our invitation to speak with the Black Doula Consortium. So we're just gonna kind of just have an intimate conversation between you and I, and just share your story, you and Isabel's story, your experience, and then how you got involved to become a maternal and infant health advocate.
Thank you, Ajua, for the welcome and for the invitation. I want to let everybody know that we did not coordinate our colors today. This was just a spiritual thing. Yeah. So yes, I think this speaks wonderfully to where the conversation will go.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just going to start by sharing a photo here, so everybody can see Belle. We call her Belle. Her name is Isabel. And I will just quickly try to do this with my limited tech skills. Make sure I'm not sharing my desktop. As you could see just the picture here, right? Okay, so this is Belle. She she came early. She was our gift, and she came much earlier than expected. But we loved her for 4 months. We were able to enjoy her, love her, care for her, fight for her, and until she became our angel. So she was here, and I love speaking. I love these opportunities to speak about her, keep her memory alive. And so I am honored to be here and just sharing our story, and anything that I can say that can help somebody who has been through this or is going through this or will go through something like this level of loss, which you just are completely unprepared for, is something that you never, as a woman, just consider. That you would be on that list, of a grieving mother to an infant. I'm here for that sisterhood and just to, open my arms and hearts for women who have been through it or will go through it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share early on. Just wanted you to see Belle in all her little glory. I am a mom. I have not, I know a lot of loss is like focused on rainbow babies and stuff like that. I have not had a rainbow baby scenario so far, but I cherish my role as a mom to an angel. Belle was born on September 15th, 2019. And I had started my motherhood journey a little later than I imagined that I would do so. And with that, I think, my risk for certain things like preeclampsia increased a little bit. And during my care, nobody really discussed that with me, so and I had heard, and I was mostly concerned during the pregnancy with diabetes, gestational diabetes, because I knew that diabetes ran in my family and stuff like that. But preeclampsia was something that I really didn't hear much about until they told me that I was suffering from it. She was a wanted baby. We wanted her here. We prayed for her. We planned and prayed for her, and just so it was a joy to know that she was going to be here and she was going to be a girl. And so for the first 4 months, the pregnancy was a breeze. I had always known that in my care, I did want to have a doula. And I knew somewhere probably in like early in the 3rd trimester, I would start looking into having one. So I think somewhere around when I was in the 4th month of pregnancy, a little later than that, I started looking around. And the ladies, oh my goodness, on La Cienega, La Tijera, there's blanking on the mother and daughter. They have a program over there. They're doulas, and they so I'm just speaking regionally in Los Angeles. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name. But I went there. Wonderful program they have there, and I met with a lot of doulas there, and just started the process of finding somebody. I was working with a midwife through my my healthcare provider, and just felt like, I was going to do this natural, beautiful birth. Even though I was a little advanced in age, I just, as we all dream, we're gonna
have a great outcome.
That was, that was in my mind and heart. And so one thing that was always concerning me during the pregnancy was that I guess it's the fundal height. My belly just wasn't getting out there as I would imagine normally, and so I shared this concern with my midwife. And one thing that I mean, a lot of people say this to women when they're pregnant or whatever, is that, every pregnancy is different and, it'll be fine sort of deal.
Right.
And I got a lot of that,
Right.
and I feel like that, it took me away from my own intuition about my body,
Mhm.
and I was very reliant on, and something I probably shouldn't have done, but as they say, hindsight.
Right.
But I was just, reassured by what the medical team was saying. Oh, it's don't worry about it. Every pregnancy is different, which it is, but nobody really kind of took my concern seriously,
Okay.
And so fast forward a couple of months, and my concern later in the pregnancy, probably about at the 20-week mark, about my blood pressure. I believe it was like when the 20-week check-in, I talked with my midwife and I said, I think my blood pressure was something like 130. I can't remember the exact numbers or something, but I remember telling her, I feel like if I sneeze, my blood pressure is going to go up over that limit. You know what I mean? There's like the cutoff mark of like when you start getting into pre-hypertension or something. And
Yeah.
that was waved away, and in hindsight, and I've had, since Belle has passed away and since she was born, I've just, worked on,
Addressing your blood pressure.
yeah, well, that for sure, for sure. But just I had nightmares.
Oh, okay. Okay.
About, I was always in the hospital thinking, I should have told them this, I should have fought back on this, I should have, did that and did this and that. And I do, like, one of the biggest things that I walk away with from this whole experience is that intuition that we have, and listening to it, despite what any health professionals are telling you.
Right.
Because I do remember I was still concerned. My mom is a registered nurse. At the 20-week mark, Belle was measuring small. And I asked my midwife, I said, can we check in on this? Is there somebody that we can talk to, or, whatever, that she was measuring small, but it wasn't at the alarming rate, but it was small enough where I was like, this is, if this was a test and we had these percentages, I think she was measuring about in the 21 percentile or something like that. And they were like, oh no, it's fine. Like, you're small. You're short or something like that. And I'm like, I wasn't that small of a baby,
Right.
and I am a person who was a multiple birth.
Okay.
And we might've been about just under 6 pounds each. We weren't like we weren't like tiny twin, multiple babies. So yeah, they were kind of trying to reassure me about that. And so within that time, I think that actually the 20-week mark, when you do your growth, you do a growth check or something like that. And then somewhere around 24 weeks, that was when we had the check-in. So it wasn't, that's also one of my, I don't know, I don't want to start. One of my concerns is that there's so much time in between some of these, your appointments and things, like some things like that, by the time it's the 24-week mark, you're probably in crisis, really, so at the 24-week mark, they gave me my results. And then so it was on me, it stayed with me that this just doesn't feel right. These numbers just don't sound right. My fundal height is just not, growing. So from there, I kind of let them reassure me, even though something told me, maybe you should go to the emergency room.
Okay.
Which is what I had learned later on. This was through one of our conversations with the AIM CAT. One of the doctors said, hey, if you're feeling like you're needs are not being addressed, or, you know, something is going wrong with your healthcare provider, you have the right to go to, you know, the emergency room and just say, hey, you know, I don't know what the, there's
The
a,
term was, yeah.
there's a
But you want,
term.
yeah. But your
Yeah.
whole goal was you wanted to be checked out.
Yeah.
To
My whole
fully assessed.
yeah, my whole goal,
Mhm.
I didn't feel comfortable with what was going on, but I was reassured that everything was okay. And they had, when, you know, they literally said they had ran it up the flagpole,
Yeah.
and the senior doctor, I guess the high risk doctor said, hey, everything is okay.
Mhm.
This is fine. This is fine. Basically, this is fine. And so I
Mhm.
was reassured that day, and I said, okay. Went home, still a little nervous about it, did some research. And then for a few more days, it sat with me or something like that. I said, okay, by the 28-week mark, I know that's a big, that's a milestone in a pregnancy, the 28-week mark. And I'm sorry, all the doulas know why. You all know why that is. I can't remember for the life of me right now why the 28-week mark. I was like, I have to check on her at that point. Like I want to make sure that I get a checkup before during that week. I just knew I had to do it. And so I scheduled an appointment for that time. And I almost missed the appointment that day to go to the doctor. But I made it there by the skin of my teeth. And I got there to the appointment, and they were just going to do a sonogram, I guess, the sonogram check of my belly, and just check in on her, do another little growth check that I fought to get. And I go in there, and the woman at the sonographer, I believe, is her title, was so quiet, you know, and normally they're really chatty, they're, you know, going on. And she was just so quiet that I said, okay, something is wrong, you know, something is going on. And she was quiet, she was typing, she was quiet, she left the room, she came back.
Yeah, that's generally around the time where the baby's head is developing. The baby's brain is about, accounts for about 10% of their body weight. 12%.
Yeah. So she had come back, and I knew I didn't know what was going on, but the growth, Bale's growth had just fallen off. So from that 20-week mark, she was at the 21 percentile. That day she was at 3%.
Wow.
And and they said, we're gonna, this is a crisis sort of situation. We're gonna take you to labor and delivery. And they took my blood pressure, and it was through the roof. And so that whole time she was, preeclampsia was setting in, and none of her nutrients or anything was getting to her, and so that, for a long time, I felt a lot of guilt and pain, and I couldn't have known myself, but I was just kept saying, oh, you should have said something, and what did I know? I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to say. You know what I mean? So I was beating myself up about that. Since then, I've had therapy and, all kind of stuff to work on that, and prayer and this and that. So, but that intuition was always kind of there, and I do want to say that, we can rely on that, really, And as we continue to walk, in our health journeys, maternity and otherwise,
Yeah.
So,
To follow, it kind of is with the saying, follow your first mind.
yeah,
Even if you have to get a second or third opinion, even if you
right.
have to change providers,
Yeah.
you have the option to do so, right? You have that right. And it goes back to, I remember when we first met, it was like
Mhm,
right before the pandemic came in. It
mhm,
was like about almost 6 months since after you had Bill,
mhm.
and you came in and you just were looking for some support and answers, right? And so what I've been hearing you mention was how you felt unheard and you didn't feel supported in
Mhm.
that. What would you, and it sounds like you're saying that you would follow your first mind, but
Mhm.
if you're talking to another mom or someone who's pregnant and they're having some concerns or doubts, what would you say to that mom? And then I'll ask you another question, like, how would you think to support them in that?
Yeah, I would, first of all, I would tell them to write down their concerns,
Hmm.
um, because sometimes you'll have conversations with these professionals and they'll just start going in a different direction or whatever, and you're not able to get everything
Hmm.
out.
Hmm.
Um, Write them down, um, share them with, and if you're able to have a doula, that is, amazing support.
Yeah.
And then to share them with your provider, and if they are not taking your concerns seriously, then know that you have other options, including an emergency room. Because an emergency room probably would have, I mean, I'm not saying it would have changed the course of how everything turned out, but for
Yeah.
sure, had I gone to an emergency room in between weeks 20, maybe 24 and 28, um, they probably would have noticed that my blood pressure was just increasing.
Right.
And I've gone back since then and looked at my medical charts.
Yeah.
I mean, I know blood pressure tends to increase in pregnancy, but
Hmm.
I don't think they were. I just don't think that they were
Properly monitored.
exactly. Yeah,
You
exactly.
never got any information. Did you ever receive any information on what to do? Or at the time before then, was your blood pressure high?
No.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know to kind of be on the lookout or even to be checking for blood pressure. That wasn't an issue or brought up.
Yeah, no. I mean, I
Yeah.
got a cuff when I left the hospital, after giving birth, which was an emergency C-section to
Hmm.
Bale, which was its own, stress,
Right.
because we were trying to, because when she was born, she was 27 weeks.
Uh-huh.
My hope was to be able to get her to 29 weeks
Okay.
so that because that is when her lungs would have, been more developed. I think it was at the 29-week mark. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm speaking like I just knew 29 was the number. Same way
Yeah.
as 28, but we couldn't we made it like, maybe a few days or whatever, but it was like, and when I say severe preeclampsia survivor, like my life was always, both of our lives were just hanging in, the balance the whole time. So
Yeah.
they would come in and they would say, hey, we're ready to do, um, we're ready to go in, we're ready for the C-section whenever you are. And I just held off as long as I could, and
Yeah.
that was so
That sounds like
stressful.
that was even more stressful.
Yeah, it was a real stressful decision to have to make and to consider. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to be in here like a crying mess. So I yeah, so those sorts of things,
Hmm.
and a lot of that stuff stayed with me for so long.
Yeah.
It for several months after I had come home. those dreams, those nightmares, really. And trying to fight for every night. It would be like a replay. And it took me a good while to figure out how to calm my brain, which was just, if you could do anything to have her here today, you would have done, you know what I mean? If you knew what to do, you would have done that, you know? And it's just like, you know, sometimes your brain does that thing where it gets into that, you know, cycle of like, they just do these things. And so just understanding what that was and talking to my therapist at one time, and I want to talk about a couple of organizations that were very helpful in my my mental health. Is, first of all, the Ronald McDonald House was there to help me stay close to the hospital, you know, help us stay close to the hospital so we can go, you know, be right there when needed, to be right next to her. And then following that, you kind of get like a lifetime membership to the club of like therapy. So I had already had my thing. This is the other thing. When I knew I was going to start my motherhood journey or embark on it, I had gotten a therapist in like 2018 just to work on me. You know, I want to be a good adult, first of all, and then I want to be able to work on all that stuff that, you know, debris, you know, from childhood and life. I really was like, you know what? I just want to clear some of that out, you know, before my child comes into the world. And I did a good deal of work, you know, before Bill got here. And so my original therapist was there all the way through and is still there. And I just talked to her last week. So I had that, you know, so when I didn't have my regular therapist, I had the Ronald McDonald House therapy, which was free, which is, you know, even better. You know, and then there was an organization that was suggested to me through the hospital social worker, the hospital social worker. You know, they help you with, you know, some grief materials and stuff like that. Compassionate Friends, which is actually in Los Angeles and in some other parts of the country. You know, this is a loss organization for parents and families of children that they've lost. The unique part about this chapter in LA Glendale is that they have a special chapter for infant loss. And I think it's so important that you know, that the focus is there, because you know, the loss of a child at 39, you know, as opposed to where you have all these memories and stuff, as opposed to, you know, an earlier loss or whatever. It's just a real different type of grief. I mean, grief is grief, but it's a unique type of grief. And when you're talking in these groups or whatever, it's just, I think it's really great to be able to talk to people who know what this means, you know, because a lot of people don't. I mean, I didn't even have any elders in my family who had experienced this kind of loss. Like, now they might have had miscarriages and stuff like that, but like I couldn't. I remember my grandmother. I feel like I'm going on and on.
You're fine. I'll cut in shortly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my grandmother's eldest sister, who's her only living surviving sibling. She's lost 2 of her adult sons. To remember talking to her, and I just knew she was going to just pour all this wisdom into me about, like, you know, this loss, and I was just waiting for her to just say all the words that I needed to hear, you know what I mean? And then I realized that she didn't even know, you know what I mean, what this was from this perspective of it, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my goodness, she's like 94 years old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
She
that
had
was
lost, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't. She
exactly.
had been able to raise them, birth them, and raise them,
Yeah.
whereas you had not been able to have that experience.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
So the
then I realized,
compensation. Yeah.
yeah, I realized, oh, this is you out here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're out here. But but since then, I've been able to do a lot of work and experience, different families and talking to a lot of different people who have experienced this type of loss, and it helps. I
Right.
my dentist actually, she knew about Belle, and she shared with me her mom's story.
Uh-huh.
And then that's the other thing. People just start sharing. They'll
Right.
just start sharing stuff, you just didn't
Right.
even realize. But her mom was starting to have some early, like they were concerned that she was having like early Alzheimer's setting in. And at one point they had asked her mom, how many children do you have? Like what day is it of the year? Just some
Mm-hmm.
basic questions. How many children do you have? And she said 3. And my dentist was like, Mom, oh no, I think this is part of the
Yeah.
dementia or whatever they're setting in.
Yeah.
And she says, no, I had a third. And then so the mom comes and tells her that she had an older brother. And this is a
Right.
real thing and that's how and her mom didn't actually have Alzheimer's at that point. She would just had something else going on, but they discovered that she had an older sibling that they
Yeah.
didn't talk about, that was born maybe like 5 years before.
Yeah.
So yeah, loss is, I mean, and yeah, this is the most, this is the hardest thing that I've ever experienced, in my whole entire life. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there are days when I'm like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you how, how I'm still, had you told me that this would happen to me,
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, oh, I don't know how I would go on. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So let me ask this question, because I tend to bring this up in the maternal and infant health space. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't feel comfortable answering that, this is okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about partner support? Your partner, how did your partner get any support? Was there
Yeah, well,
conversation?
Belle's dad is on the East Coast too, so
Okay.
that's a whole other
Okay.
thing. But yeah, he has some grief support.
Okay.
But men do grief. I mean, from what I've experienced,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different sort of perspective on grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but he's definitely gotten support, and but the way that I need support is just like so much different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and that's understandable. So in your family, here you share about external support. Did you feel like you got the support in your family, or were there even, because it seems like you spent like, was it about, how many months did you all spend in the NICU?
4 months, her whole life she was in the
Okay, the
NICU.
whole time. Okay, so those 4 months, did you feel like there was enough support provided to you there in the NICU? I heard you talk about the different programs, but
Yeah, I have my mom was here. My mom had come down. She was here the whole time. She's also an RN.
okay.
So I felt supported in that way. I had, a cousin come down. My sister is here. And I did have a doula for a brief bit of time.
Okay.
That was helping out too.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I do want to say about loss and grief is that it will show you who can handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like in your personal life, there
Yeah.
are some people who will, and I'm gonna say, before I experienced this level of grief, I probably wouldn't even have known how to
Yeah.
handle this.
How to stay the course, with someone.
Yeah, and how to show up, basically. And I hear a lot of people kind of being disappointed in people and stuff like that, in grief groups and stuff and things like that, of that nature. But if people haven't experienced grief, or if they have fears about death, or are just really uneasy about it, they'll kind of step back or fade away, you know what I mean? And there are people who you didn't even realize would show up for you in major ways, you know what I mean? So that's the other thing. So there are people in my life, friends, co-workers, who really were like looking out for us in a way that I didn't even expect. And then there were other people who kind of, shied away. And I think that's just grief overall. There are people who don't know what to say. They just don't know how to handle it. And I have learned to have compassion and grace, in that as well. And it's going to take a lot of that, because it also takes a lot of and protection of yourself, as you share, and that's why I was telling you earlier, I mean, sharing your story, who to share it with, what to say and when, or because people will come out of left field with stuff, I was telling somebody I was working on something, a special project for Bill, and I was looking for somebody to help me with it, and somebody was like, oh yeah, I lost my dog. Yeah. And actually that was one my first phone call with the Compassionate Friends, one of the volunteers. They told me that early on. They said people will say stuff and you just have to be, to just be ready for it. So I'm glad that she told me that like maybe 6 months ahead of somebody telling me that, because I mean, it's weird. It really is weird.
Right, like that. I don't feel like that's the comparison, but I won't say sadly, but the relationship people have built with their animals, I've heard it a ton of times. I think that's the challenge, is how do we first ensure that the medical providers can provide you with compassion, right? Especially if you felt like, or your experience was, I was not heard. That's why I like the fact that CDC created the Hear Her campaign. I like the fact that the work that we're doing is acknowledging the racism that has impacted the lives of Black moms and infants, to the point that there's proof and record that we've gone unheard and not had our concerns properly addressed. And so that we can create these types of conversations, so that we can look at how do we address and bring up those concerns, like, what should I have been looking out for? Are there ways to have like an in-between checkup? I need to come in between time because I have some concerns. I'm very concerned about my weight. Can you check me? Because we've had, we've been working on a project, another film. And in that, we've had conversations with women who said the same thing, like similarly, like they asked these questions and they were dismissed. It was very dismissive, like, oh, everything is okay, nothing's wrong. And then they ended up having a stillbirth. Or then, then it's like, well, your baby's, basically it just comes in like your baby's dead, not compassionate and having an understanding. So I like the work that we're doing. I like the opportunities to be able to now engage with providers and even those that are in school, so we can further dialogue about how to further work and build a relationship and communication with your patient.
Yeah, and particularly for Black
that trust
women,
you, right?
Yeah, particularly for us who, as we've learned, people don't take our pain seriously. They don't. They just don't take our pain and our concerns seriously. And I just love the work that that is being done to make this better for us, make it a better experience. Discuss with us some of these issues that we are at risk for, like preeclampsia and checking our blood pressures, I mean, and I understand that not every pregnancy is going to go in this direction, but
Right.
I was kind of on the cusp of like high risk.
Yeah.
So I think, and I honestly should have probably been, I mean, treated as high risk. But yeah, just those sorts of things, because just being African American kind of puts you at risk of preeclampsia in some cases, so at a higher risk. I don't want to say at risk, but stuff like that. Just as they're taking in this information and learning, and I hope one day that there's more research dedicated to stuff like this, more research funding, and like actual implementation of stuff in these wings, to help us. Like, hey, here's the chart, or things that are simple to help people understand right when you're sitting there in the doctor's office, or things, we always see them looking at computers.
Well, even probably, I don't know if they do it still, or how many do it, how often, if people are able to access even the prenatal health education classes, like the L&D classes, and some things that help you along with, each trimester and what to expect, and, some of the warning signs to look out for, how frequent that is to be in a class. And I think it's good too. They have like things called group prenatal, where folks can go along in a group together, based upon their date of delivery, right? Their expected date of delivery. So I think those are helpful too. But what I want to know is, like, as we get ready to wrap up, is, so what prompts, where are you at with your grief and loss journey? What are you doing to keep Belle's memory alive? And then also, it sounds like you've had some great success with getting the mental health support you need, but what will you continue to do as an advocate and as the mommy of Isabel?
Well, grief is an everyday thing. It's just the new normal. You know what I mean? For me, it's never going to go away. I'm always going to think of her. I am always going to be marking where she would be right now. She would be 2 years old right now, what she would be up to if there's, a kid who's 2 years old, that's Belle would be, out there doing something, like, you know what I mean? So grief will always be a big part of my life. And it's just about managing it. So that's good. Managing my blood pressure is going fabulously. You know what I mean? I have a cuff probably right here on this desk.
Okay.
And keeping her memory alive, doing work, talking here. I don't know if anybody, if this anything that I said would help anybody, but I certainly hope so. And just talking to moms, would-be moms,
Right.
and just sharing this as not to say that this, because my story is an outlier, so it's most pregnancies do, whatever. I'm not able, but like, I don't want anybody to be concerned or afraid in hearing, what I mean, this story. That's what I want to say. Because there's no fear in this. Is just, sharing an experience, you know what I mean? And just to help somebody to, in any way that it might. During the year, there's now my calendar is just like, my calendar year is, Belle's, January is when she passed away. So that's a grief thing. The spring is when the March of Dimes does their walk, which I knew from the very start when we were in the hospital. I learned about the March of Dimes organization, more about what they do. And so I fundraise every year for her. So the March of Dimes, you know, is a long-standing organization that helps works to do research and help better incomes for premature babies. And so, yeah, that's a part of our year is the March of Dimes walk. And then for Belle's birthday, there's always, I like to give back, you know, to organizations that helped us. So we do a meal of love. What's called a Meal of Love at the Ronald McDonald House to families who are staying there. One of the toughest things, you know, being going through stress and the stress of having a child in the hospital and all that is what you're going to eat for dinner or lunch, you know. And those Meal of Loves like really came in handy, especially at nighttime when you're, you know, coming back from the hospital. So we sponsor a dinner every year for Belle's birthday. And our little organization is called Belle's Angels. And so we just feed like 50 to 75 families a hot meal. And I know, how important it is because it made a difference every time for us. Just, you know, continuing to do what I can with AIMCAT and just speaking out wherever I can, and just staying on this walk, trying to stay, you know, mentally strong and fit for the journey. So yeah, I don't know where my motherhood journey will take me, you know. It can include lots of things, including adoption or, you know, things like that. But I am forever Belle's mom, you know. She made me a mom, and she opened up, you know, this portal of nurturing and love that I would say increased like tenfold when she when she came into the world. So that's my job now, is to nurture, you know what I mean, and to share this share love with others. So, and whatever information that I can do. So that's why I'm here today.
Well, you know
Greasy and all. I just was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I hope I don't go too crazy, you know, say anything too crazy or off the mark or whatever. But I'm very thankful that you invited me, and I'm hopeful that this can help somebody.
You know, I want to tell you, I thank you so much for participating and accepting the invitation. Since we met, I still reflect back to that meeting in Carson when you came. And I can say for myself, I have seen your healing journey, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of it, for you to have joined us in the work and in the efforts to become even a planning team member, you know, within the CAT, and a community action team member, to be a part of reducing and impacting African-American infant and maternal mortality in LA County. And for you to just, you know, share as you can, participate and support as you can. So I can say, beautiful queen, you know, Isabel's mommy, I'm appreciative of being able to be one of your colleagues and partners in this work. And always please keep in touch with us and share so we can support your fundraising efforts in Belle's honor. So again, thank you so much, Chanel, for being here. And we're honored that you were willing to be transparent and share your pregnancy and loss journey, not just with us, but with really what becomes not just California, but can be the world, so that we can impact and make changes and be a blessing, and hopefully save someone else, save another infant, save another mom. And, you know, again, I'm grateful for the health changes that you've decided to make and how you are following your progress, even with your blood pressure and with your mental health, to deal with your grief and loss. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Audra. Thank you for being that, opening the door for me to come. Because I was just like, hey, I need to be here. I don't know what is going on. I like what's happening. I need to be here. That was like probably 3 months after Bale had passed away.
Yeah.
And I found you, and I was like, just like, let me touch the hem.
Yes, it was like, come on in, sister. Come on in, sister. So
thank you.
So next month we'll be talking about prematurity awareness. We'll have Mashariki on, which who you know from March of Dimes, Mashariki Kuduma. Definitely tap in, tune in. Hopefully we can make that a live Zoom as we have planned, but we definitely will broadcast and share this out. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we're just grateful. And prayerfully, we will be able to bless someone else in this journey. So thank you all for joining us here today. I know this is a heavy conversation. Again, we want to thank our guest speaker, Chanel Gibbs, as she talks about the life of baby Isabel, her angel here while she continues this journey as a mom and as a mother who has experienced loss and who can share with other parents in the community. If you have, don't forget to complete the engagement form, community engagement form. Also, if you have questions that you would like for us to share out and even share with Chanel, please let us know, provide them, and then we will get them back to her. So again, thank you very much for our conversations partners who always take the time to come and talk with us about your painful reality. Thank you to those of you who are able to join and participate in this webinar. We also want to thank our partners for being a part of this work and helping us raise the issue around these important topics. As a note, just to let you know, our next webinar is scheduled for November 30th. And again, we'll be talking about prematurity and prematurity awareness, which is another difficult topic. So thank you again for your time. Please don't forget, in order for us to help build healthy communities and curb preventable infant death rates as well as maternal death rates, we have to start with giving the attention to our women and babies, the attention they need and deserve, and in order for them to thrive and survive. So again, thank you and have a great evening. I'm trying to see where